On Earth, 80% of the planet eats 12 plants and 5 animals. I'll make a prediction right now on your podcast. We don't even know yet what food in the future tastes like.
I'm Naomi Hallum, a mother, long-term vegan, and someone who loves learning from others. I've gathered some of my favourite vegan parents, a mixture of advocates, activists, health professionals, chefs, and more, to talk about the benefits and misconceptions around vegan parenting, which are many. We'll also be talking about all the fun and not so fun stuff that we parents go through and how raising kids has shaped us. Whether you're curious about vegan parenting or just want to know where we get our protein, then this podcast is for you. It's a resource I wish I'd had as a first-time mom, but that you'll never have to be without. Welcome to Raising Gen V. This week, I got to chat with my cherished friend, Shaun Monson, who, through his groundbreaking film Earthlings, played a pivotal role in inspiring me to go vegan. Shaun, who has himself been vegan for over 2 decades, is a father to 2 beautiful daughters, one of whom recently graduated university, and both of whom have never eaten meat, fish, eggs, or dairy their entire lives. An incredible testament to how sustainable a vegan lifestyle can be. In addition to being a dad, Shaun is a world-renowned film director and passionate vegan activist. His 2005 documentary Earthlings, narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, illustrates how we abuse animals for food, clothing, and entertainment, and has inspired countless viewers to go vegan. His compelling storytelling and dedication to ethical causes has established him as a leading figure in both the film industry and the animal rights movement, and also as a pretty cool role model for his girls. I love chatting to Shaun about his love of parenting, his vegan kids, and all of the amazing things that being a parent has taught him. Get yourself comfortable and let's dive in. So Shaun, you have 2 girls, aged 22 and age 5, Phoenix and Mira.
Yeah, there's a 17-year gap in between them.
Yeah.
So one was going to college and I was back in diapers, which was awesome.
So how old were you when you had your first daughter?
31.
Okay.
31, I think, yeah. That's about right. I thought, I came from a family of kids in a community of kids, and I wanted to have kids. Children see the world so beautifully and innocently. And I write down things Phoenix will say because it's almost mythical. It's on the edge of myth. And it just evokes such awe because it's so pure.
So I'm a parent of a 2-year-old, and yes, children are beautiful, and there's nothing more precious than a little girl running around in a princess dress, but they are hard work as well, right?
In what sense?
In the sense that they...
Not a puppy.
Not a puppy, but they do poop and pee a lot, right? They're not always great sleepers. Yeah. They know what they want, but they have no patience, right? They're very demanding. Right. They need all your attention and all your love and all your guidance. Yeah. So it's a big responsibility, and there's a lot of pressure, and they can't regulate their emotions. So when you fail, they let you know about it. And you were a single parent, so was it ever hard?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's incessant. They come by it honestly. I mean, from the moment they were in the womb when they first came out, every need was immediately met, and I can attest just how quickly, shockingly quick, how fast it goes by. It's scary.
Yeah, I do try to remember that, and there's particularly difficult times like at 4 a.m. where they will not go back to sleep. And you're like, I can't wait for this period to be over. But at the same time, it is, like you say, it is over quickly. And so is that portion of their life forever.
I mean, if you live to be, you're vegan. Let's say you live to be 90 or 100, healthy too. Your childhood, let's say 20 years. And their childhood, 20 years. So there's 40 of your 100 or 40 of your 90. That's still, let's say 90. That's 50 years, 60 years, excuse me. Well, if you go to 100, of you just getting time with you or you and your partner, or you doing what you want. in the grand scheme. It's a stage. It's a stage of life, So really, delve into it. Go all the way into it. But yeah, it's not easy, of course. You ever stepped on a Lego at 2 a.m. going to the bathroom?
I've stepped on more than a Lego. I once stepped on a poop that had fallen from the diaper in the darkness.
Epic.
And I didn't realize it had fallen until my toes squished into it. And then I'm
Nice.
like, what is that?
Nice.
Yeah, that was fun to pick out with my
That was a
feet.
good one.
Yeah.
When is that going to happen again in your life? It's just it's a sitcom. You got to look at it that way.
All right. So then what is the funniest thing that's happened to you as a parent, or the biggest parenting fail? Like if someone says like, tell me like an anecdote of being a parent that would like make you laugh today, even if it didn't in the moment.
I don't know. I mean, just the other day at school, this is probably maybe some epic fail or some big one, but I remember the other day, she has these kids in class, I'll forget their names or something. I'll be like, who, and she's, they remember everything. Brains sponges, right? They just remember everything. And so we parked and we were going in and I said, oh, look, there's, one of the girls from class. I said, what's her name? And she says, that's Callista. And I said, oh, there's Callista. I said, oh, she's your friend. She goes, no, she's not my friend. I said, oh, so I realized, Callista is a friend, by the way, but I realized that some are friends and some are just classmates. And I said, so, and there's a distinction that she was making. And I said, oh, so she's not a friend. She's just a classmate. She says, Daddy, they're all classmates. And I remember thinking, I'm the adult educated guy. And I just asked her the dumbest question. And my 5-year-old just said, Daddy, they're all classmates. Because they hear and absorb everything and they compute it the way they compute it. So it just goes to show how we can begin to imprint,
right,
really early on, our biases, our tendencies. It all comes through, I think, I read something once about pregnancy. If we back it up just for a second, which I've obviously never been through. So it's something I read, so I'll paraphrase.
Okay.
But there were different stages of pregnancy. And this idea of this being floating in the womb in perfect peace and harmony and safety. And then as the child gets close to birth, it's sort of the first trauma for this little entity. Let's say the beginning of the whole birth process, right? And it's starting to have contractions, the first contraction. If a person in life stays at the first stage or can find their way back to that first stage, it's sort of that Buddha mentality, that Zen mentality. If they find themselves at that second stage, which is the first contraction, the first threat, they might always see life in terms of fear. If they find the third stage, which is potentially the most violent, which is literally the passing through, the being forced through this birth canal, this darkness, there's screaming, there's blood, there's foul smells. I mean, it is quite an ordeal for both, right? The child and the mother. So it's this enormous ordeal. And someone who stays in later life in that third stage, could be a suicide bomber, could be a murderer, could be at that absolute threat stage where nothing matters except what I want or need or what I got to do to get through this. And then, of course, the fourth stage, which is quite beautiful, is the light and the first goddess, which is the mother. And then the baby comes out from sort of emotional, comes out from underneath his heart and is placed on top of the heart. And all those feelings, if the mother wanted the child or didn't want the child, all those feelings come through. They really are this absorbing, imprinting being. The responsibility we have to raise children, it's extraordinary.
And it is hard. It is hard. You've talked about like Buddhism there, but you were raised Mormon, is that right? Yeah.
I was raised in, I grew up here in California, but my family was all Mormon, and that's the Christian tradition. Mormons are Christians. They believe they're Christians. They're actually not called Mormons. They're called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So they're Christians. And so it's essentially a Christian denomination. Interesting thing about Christian denominations, if you Google it, I believe there's 50,000 or 40,000 Christian denominations. That's extraordinary to me. in my 20s when I woke up to, I was always sensitive to animals, but I wasn't raised, I wasn't raised with any of that kind of influence. And when I saw footage, first time I saw footage, it was actually pigs. It was pigs.
How did you see footage of?
Because I would watch some documentaries from time to time. I hadn't made one yet. I wanted to be a filmmaker, a commercial filmmaker. I was only interested in being a big commercial filmmaker, but I loved to watch all kinds of films. And I was watching a doc, and I saw some footage, and I remember actually what it was. It was Heart of Darkness, which came out in the early 90s. And it was about the making of a film called Apocalypse Now. So it was a Hollywood making of movie.
Right.
So it was about the making of that film, Apocalypse Now. And if you know the film, in the end, when Brando's character is killed, it's intercut with a sequence of a caribou being hacked to death in a ritual. This is prior to the Humane Society being on sets. This was in the 70s when this film was made. And this was prior to Humane Society involvement in film production for, making sure animals weren't harmed in the making of something. So just before all that, there was a lot more of that back then in films. So it was an actual live caribou that was killed on screen in the movie that's symbolizing the death of this, villain.
Oh, wow.
So if you see it, these scenes are cut together. And they were talking about the idea of it in this documentary. Because I was just watching a documentary. And I saw how they got the idea because they were in this part of the jungle and there were tribes there and they watched them actually kill some pigs. And I said, is that what pigs go through? And I'd grown up eating bacon and loving it and the standard Western diet. I grew up just like, and I said, I'm never eating it again. I'm never eating it again. And boy, was that did I go down that path? Because who knew I would just be like, just personally changing my diet wasn't going to be enough. I had to do something that would, maybe evoke that same shift in another.
We've all, as parents, got this idea that we want to bring our kids up to be kind and courteous, right, and considerate of others. Yeah. But we exclude some beings from that circle of compassion. Yep. It's like, again, we're picking and choosing where to apply that and where to hold it back. So I remember very pointedly as a child saying to my mum, why do we eat some animals and not others? And my mum would say, well, that's because some animals are to be eaten. That's their purpose. And some are not. And you think, okay, I guess that means that compassion doesn't apply to everyone. So what is this rule I'm learning here that we just pick and choose where to put our compassion? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it does reflect it in that way a lot.
No, these are good because it pushes the human psyche to think about these things a little more. A lot of social conditioning. Your mother had it. My parents had it. We still have it. And we're probably doing it to our kids to some degree because we're still learning. But today, we're seeing more and more awareness in terms of animals, what they go through. I don't think people delude themselves as much anymore. YouTube has certainly done that. A lot of things. People know something awful is going on, and it's getting better. And I can just add one more thought on that. If you look at the plant and nut milks, for instance, and I remember jokes comedians used to say, if there's no teat, there's no milk, right? Can't take it from a nut. Can't take it. That's not milk. Well, that's a tribute to the effectiveness of marketing the dairy industry, right? Because it's like, here's what milk is. And it's weird because we're not putting kangaroo milk on our cereal or camel milk on our coffee. We're like, it's the cow, right? So that was sold, right? And everybody bought it. And we only drink, no one drinks milk in nature after infancy except us and some other species, and not all species, just this one. So it was sold and programmed into us, and that's how it begins. And this nut plant milk thing comes along, and it's a disruption, really. It's like a market disruption. So you have inception of an idea and you have adoption of an idea, and in between we call it the valley of death. And we never know if a product or a business will succeed crossing the valley of death to adoption, to the adoption of the public. Plant and nut milks have done so now. My last count, I think there's 17. On the market, almost 20% of the market. It's pretty good. So, and the great thing about plant and nut milks is that you don't drink whatever your preference is, it's your choice. It's almost like the potato chip aisle, well, you want this tortilla chip or that? That's how it should be, you just pick. Here's the beauty of this. You're not drinking oat milk, for instance, and you're not saying, does it taste like cow milk? It doesn't have to reference the milk we were all programmed with. That's huge. That's a huge step forward. Alternative proteins are still in the valley of death. They've come out. They're fantastic what these innovators have done. Adoption, inception, we're not quite totally at adoption. Some of the market's struggling right now. It's not linear. It's an S curve anyway, so you don't have to worry. But it's still in the valley of death. Why? Because we're still taking alternative proteins and saying, does it taste like meat?
Yeah.
Does it taste like cow's chicken? Cow's chickens are big. On Earth, 80% of the planet eats 12 plants and 5 animals. 12 plants and 5 animals feeds 80% of this Earth, and there's millions of plants on this Earth. So once we do what milks have done, plant and nut milks with alternative proteins, I'll make a prediction right now on your podcast. We don't even know yet what food in the future tastes like. We haven't even yet discovered the menu of the future because we're bracketed
right
by those 12 plants and 5 animals.
Which we want everything to taste like.
Everything has to taste like that reference point. But we did it with the milks. We broke through.
We did, yeah.
I'm way off on parenting right now, but I had to just...
No, but that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because my daughter loves soy milk.
Okay.
And she's not saying, I like it as much as cow's milk. She's saying, I just like it for what it is.
Preference.
Right? And that's really what I say sometimes. People say, well, that doesn't taste as good as whatever, a pork sausage. And I said, does it taste good though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it good in your hot dog bun? Yeah, with onions and sauce. Yeah. So what's the problem?
Right.
And trying to get over that
yeah.
with other parents is particularly difficult because they're programmed not only to think it has to taste a certain way, but that it has to be from a certain animal or it's not going to be right in a nutritional way or in a taste way. It's just not going to be proper.
Right. I know. I mean, when Mira, my oldest, was in school, I made her lunch every day. And I talked to the teachers and I said, look, I'm raising her vegan. I don't have any religion. I didn't raise her with a religion. I don't have any political standpoint I'm going to take. If I'm doing anything weird, she's eating a plant-based diet, which is perfectly nutritious. So that's our thing. So do me a favor. If it's pizzas on Friday or something, will you give me a heads up? And I'll make sure I bring something in that looks just like whatever, or cupcakes or something. And that's what I did. But yeah, pushback from parents still. Sure. And again, they come by it honestly because it's how they were raised. And that programming is incessant, right? I mean, every billboard, every ad. And confusion works. That's why misinformation works really well. Misinformation works really well because the analytical mind is confused for a minute, but the unconscious mind, the message still went right in. And then you just keep repeating it over and over and over. We're seeing that a little bit in the political landscape too. You just keep repeating that message. And if it's confusing, analytically, you might say, wait a second, but the unconscious mind keeps hearing it over and over. So back to the food, the parents come by it on, honestly. Just like we were brought up,
Yeah.
It's a real shift to kind of pull yourself out of it.
Well, I feel like it's been repeatedly told to parents that they've got to get as much dairy into their children because the dairy needs the calcium, right? They have strong bones and they need the fat to get nice and healthy and chubby. And, they need the protein. And this is the most common question I get asked is, well, if she's not having cow's milk, where is she getting all these really important things? And then parents will also say to me like, oh, well, my child actually doesn't like cow's milk or is intolerant to it. So I'm just trying to get the dairy in other ways, like through Greek yogurt and, cheese. And I'm thinking, where does this come from? Because the science doesn't back this up, but they believe it more than anything.
Yeah. Food is quite possibly, we've never thought of ourselves as drug addicts in terms of food, like hardcore drug addicts. But the symptoms are the same. You tell a smoker you can't smoke anymore, they might start, freaking out a little bit. That reaction, that's a withdrawal threat. Same to the alcoholic. You can't drink anymore or whatever. Or the drug addict, the heavy drug addict, take the drug away. You tell someone who loves cheese they can't have cheese, you might see a parallel in that reaction behavior. That's an addiction response. If you said you're going to take your Brussels sprouts away, they might not lose any sleep over it.
I would.
You would.
I would.
Yeah, of course. Or whatever the dark green leafy vegetables that they just won't miss in this life. So we are, 95% of the public is addicted. We just don't think of ourselves as, we are addicts.
Right.
And they know better than anyone. They manipulate those foods. I mean, there's a reason whatever that chip company says, bet you can't eat just one. Because they go in there to make this chip so that your brain just literally like a drug hit, like a little mini. That potato chip is a little bit of a cocaine potato chip. Just enough to go like you'd never had that reaction probably eating a date. So they made food. They made drug food.
Yeah.
Again, so people come by it honestly. So I always say compassion first.
So when you and your partner were pregnant with your first daughter, was it a discussion you had about should we raise our child vegan, or was it a given? Was there any trepidation around making that choice for your child?
No, just that's what we're doing. I mean, I ate so much crap growing up, so much fast food and junk. I'm like, I survived all that BS. Like, wait a minute. Like we ate, no one was even checking this stuff. We didn't have seatbelts in the car. No one was wearing a car seat. I grew up in the 80s or 70s. I forget when they started, but like, we're out playing by ourselves until the street lights came on, running around the street, I never worried about it too much. I didn't personally, or with the second. I never worried about it.
So you weren't raising a child with all of this sort of focus on nutrition and what is optimal. You were just saying, well, this is what I know, so this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, this is what we eat. And there's so much variety and stuff. The kids don't, they don't know the difference. So
right.
It's great. The question would be at what later point do they start to want to choose to try something else? That's, was a concern. That's when, if I was manipulating my children, if they were old enough, that's when I began to weave in the ethical argument. I admit it, because it's an emotional reaction again over an ingredient, over a nutritional ingredient. They don't really understand the environmental impact. I don't see why we'd not start to tell them the truth about animals delicately,
right,
compassionately. Again, we are in a strange world where violence is more accepted. Well, violence is more accepted than nudity, for instance. I mean,
right.
You can kill people in shows, but God forbid you show a nipple. I mean,
yes. Have either of your kids ever said to you, oh, I want to try some animal product, or I did try some animal product, or how would you feel if I had a slice of this birthday cake at this person's party that has dairy in it? Like, you ever had those, I guess, rebellious kid moments?
I haven't, fortunately, but the tricky window is that very young age, like where Phoenix is right now, because 5.5 does not know, does not understand. And so if you go to a birthday party and there's cake, and it's full of dairy, it's full of eggs, whatever, she's not going to eat it, so that's tricky.
But yeah, when a kid doesn't understand why they can't have something, they're prone to having a screaming fit.
Yeah.
Smacking a parent, touching the floor, all of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I have that, you kind of touched upon it earlier. I have that fear that it's just the element of not fitting in that is going to create that. Not that I can't specifically have the cake or the slice of pizza, but I can't do what the other kids are doing, right?
Yeah.
And so I try to preempt that by taking, a vegan dish that looks like something she's going to want to the potluck, or sending in the pizza in the pizza box that's vegan, so that she can have what the other kids are having, but in her own way. Yeah. And I still, I'm a very dedicated vegan, but I still second question it, because I'm like, am I tricking her into thinking she's having what other kids have? Should I be more clear? But she's 2. So it's kind of like, at what point do I start to say, well, listen, yours is different, and here's why? I guess they have to understand that. And until they do, you've just got to make those decisions yourself. Yeah. Like any parent.
Not too much different too from, if there's an allergy or some other issue. Where you're just like, we're not going to eat that. Or if it was junk food, parents have no problem cutting off the junk food at some point. You can't have M&Ms all day long, or you can't eat this all day. No, absolutely not. And the kid still wants it. It's really not that much out of the realm of, trying to keep our kids to eat something healthier. Wow. The sooner you start them on it, the easier it is, obviously. So, yeah, that's not too tough, I don't think. But I don't know, this one's still little, so social pressure is a real deal,
It is. It's one of the biggest reasons why people fall off is lack of social support. They just want to fit in.
Yeah. So again, sensitivity and respect for people and their various personalities and what they can and can't handle.
Yeah, I've had that question myself. Like, you're going to turn your child into a social pariah. And I said, it's a sad world we live in then, isn't it? Where we have to kind of point fingers at the child who's doing something that's compassionate and is an expression of kindness. And that's what veganism is.
Yeah.
And worry about what other kids are going to think, as opposed to worrying why they are not praising the vegan
But
child.
if it's a peanut allergy, fine. For gluten, okay. It's totally inconsistent.
You've raised a child to be a young girl, to be a young woman, and you're still raising a young daughter. First off, that's proof, isn't it, that you can raise someone as a vegan from birth, from conception, and they're going to be healthy and well-rounded.
Right.
Do you think your daughter is healthy and well-rounded? Have there ever been any times when you thought, how I've raised her is not giving her the best view of the world? Or are you pleased with the outcome?
In terms of that, definitely. I mean, she hasn't been as outspoken as I have, like as a documentary filmmaker, more outspoken, but she's influenced her friends in college, for instance. So she had college roommates, 4 years. So she just wouldn't eat it. And then they'd try it. She didn't give them stats, statistics. She didn't show them videos. She didn't give them a book. She didn't give anybody a brochure, a flyer, or anything. She didn't take them to an event. She just lived it every day. And then someone would say, well, I want to try what Mira's having. Or she'd bake a bunch of vegan brownies for something, let's say, and they would go first. They'd get inhaled first by the guys or whoever was there, these college kids. And they just accepted her. So they call her Miracle. Miracle, Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's nice. Do you think you seem very proud of her. Do you think she's proud of you being her dad? Do you think she's happy with the deal she got?
I hope so. Man, that is a loaded question. I hope so. Because we're human, we're fallible. No instruction manual. Well, there's no shortage of books that people tell you what to do, right? But really, to intuit what your child needs, and it is a privilege. It really is an absolute privilege, an honor. You hope you had a positive effect.
Shaun, thank you for sharing your thoughts on parenting and your own parenting journey. Yeah. And just for anyone watching who is new to this vegan parenting journey or considering raising somebody vegan, and they're afraid, of all the things we've discussed, a child not fitting in, not getting a rounded experience, all of those things, not getting the right nutrients. I mean, what is the one most important bit of maybe empowering advice that you could give to a parent considering this?
I think if parents don't have a problem telling their children about their religious belief, because, the planet is predominantly religious, over 90% in all combined belief systems. So I don't think parents ever, if they have a religious feeling, have any problem imparting that on their children. Or they love their country. We're American here in this country, for instance, and they love to say, this is who we are, I don't see why something like this needs to be any different, certainly than a belief system. Because it's an understanding. So, be unafraid about it. Just tell people how you feel and why you feel that way. Most people are getting more and more accepting of it. That might be easy for us in Los Angeles, where in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, it might still be a little bit more, odd, but it's getting better. Lots of things have pushed the needle, so to speak, forward. Civil rights, equal rights, women's rights, children's rights, environmental rights, humanitarian rights, animal rights. I mean, people were getting more and more patient with it. So don't be afraid. Step into it. If you're going to raise your kids in a certain religious belief and you have no problem telling your neighbors about that one, then, believe in yourself and be confident in yourself and stand up for it. Look them in the eye and tell them how you feel without attacking.
Always. Thank you, Shaun. Thank you for listening to Raising Gen V. If you'd like to hear more, please subscribe to this channel. You can also watch videos from this podcast via our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook channels, details of which can be found in the description. Comments, likes, reviews, and ratings mean the world to my team and I, as do suggestions for future podcast guests and topics for discussion. Remember, children learn more from who you are than from what you teach, so make conscious choices, be curious about the world, be infinitely compassionate, and pave the way for a better tomorrow. See you next time.